welcome to our midweek program. We call it the Midweek Vibes, and we are coming to you live from Mamlaka Hill Chapel, Ruaka, and we are so delighted that we can share this 1 hour or so together. And today our topic is very interesting. We are going to be looking at teenagers, so moms of teenagers, parents of teenagers. This is your program, and our topic will be schooling teenagers at home. And with me on set today is Carol. Carol, welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. It's really great to be here today on Midweek Vibes, and it's such a pleasure. My name is Carol Chakua. I am a mom. I'm a therapist, and I also work with parents. And what I do with parents is I help them develop or create an environment so that they can have better relationships with their children. As opposed to just fixing behavior, let's build relationships. And then out of the relationships, the behaviors will just come out naturally.
Oh, nice. Thank you so much for coming. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
And we have Marion with us. Marion, introduce yourself to us.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Marion Njoroge. For the purposes, I'm thinking through how many identities I want to introduce, but for the
Give us all of them.
for the purposes of this conversation, I am a mom to 3 young men. So my firstborn is 20 years old, and then I have teenage twin boys aged 15. They turn 15 in a few days' time.
Oh.
I'm also a working mom, so I run a business. We have a market research company, family business, so that keeps me busy as well.
Thank you so much. You are so welcome. And our viewers, Mamlaka Hill Chapel, and anyone joining us for the first time, I welcome you in the Mamlaka way style, and I introduce myself. I'm your host today, Reverend Maggie Moher. I serve here at Mamlaka Hill Chapel. Now, to get us started, and we are so happy that we have 2 moms on set, and our 2 moms will help us explore what it is like to parent teenagers, to put them through school during this COVID season when they have so much time at home. But let's define who is a teenager. What is teenagehood all about? Carol, please help us understand what we mean by teenage.
Thank you, Reverend Maggie. It could take maybe about 2 hours for us to really define. But I think what I really want to do is demystify what teenage is, because we really get into this space with a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, and even when I work with parents of 7-year-olds, they tell me, you know, he's behaving this way. How will he be when he's 13 or 15? And so they're never even able to be present in the moment with a 7-year-old. So to just demystify adolescence is that it's really a teenage or adolescence. I'll keep using, those words interchangeably. It's a stage of life. It's a season of life, like any other season. It has unique changes. It has unique characteristics, just like toddlerhood has has its own unique characteristic. And we need to look at it as a stage of transition like any other stage, but not this really defining moment that we need to go into with a lot of fear. We need to arm ourselves. We need to be ready. Otherwise, if we don't fix children early, they'll give us issues they'll give us issues in their teenage. So it's a season where a lot is going on, a lot more. And that is God's way. That's how he has designed it, to prepare teenagers to get out of, now for life in future. And so if you're preparing someone to step into life in future, then there's a level of independence that they need. There's a level of maturity that they need. So there's a lot of growing that goes on during that stage. And from a psychological perspective, the levels of dopamine, those feel-good hormones?
Yes.
They are actually lower. So what teenagers do is to be able to increase them so that they can feel good. They get into risky behaviors. So,
I'm just listening in an active way. Continue.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to ask something.
No, don't.
So the levels, they are lower. So they need to do things that, bring those levels of feel good chemicals higher, and that's why they have tendencies of getting into risky behaviors. So I think it's in terms of just understanding teenage, it's not a stage to get into with a lot of fear and anxiety, but it's looked at actually as a second window of opportunity, because there's so many things happening, and we can still harness so much from this amazing teenager who's just about to get out there. And if we are able to focus on let's prepare them to get them out there, as opposed to let's fix them right now, let's fix the things that are not right and fix them wrong, and make them right, then we approach teenage with a lot more level of just being relaxed. It's not easy, but even as parents, we need to understand that we also need to grow as the teenagers are growing.
Thank you so much. Amazing. But I have a quick comment here. We have a top fan. Her name is Angela Wanjuko, and she's saying, I can't wait to delve into this hot topic. Now, with an interested listener or viewer like that, we need to ask one question. Is the fear real? As a mom, are there fears that you have that are real, that you can share?
I think I'm glad that you asked me as a mom, because I bring no qualification, no experience textbook-wise. I can only share from my experiences as a mother raising teenagers, raising young men, for that matter. I think it's very interesting. So I said my firstborn is 20 years old, and then the twins, my twins are 15 years old, so they're smack in teenage. They're just getting well into teenage. And the other one has exited teenage, so to speak, in a matter of number of years. I think with what I would say is, with your first child, the level of anxiety is really high, because we don't want to get it wrong. And I'm so glad that Carol is the one who said this, that we need to realize the window of opportunity that happens with teenagehood, because many times we come at it with, we have had horror stories about teenagers, they're becoming, and when your preteen starts questioning things that you're doing, then you start panicking and you start, this is the dreaded teenagehood we have heard about. And so your guard is up, your armor is up, and you come at it guns blazing. And you miss out on the joy of who this person is, or who this person is becoming as a teenager. Because I tend to think what's happening is they're beginning to walk from who they really are and will be for life. So it's when it's your first time child, you're so trying to do everything by the book and get it right, and you feel that your success as a parent will be measured by the kind of child that you raise. So immediately you feel like there's any danger of your child sleeping, you're there, you're at
you're
it.
trying to
quarterback the situation, and you miss out a lot. So I tend to find, and to be fair, to be compassionate to ourselves as parents, we didn't know any better. It's also like the first time you hold your baby, there's things you didn't know, there are things you thought would be automatic. I'd be a mom, nobody told you about the emotions that come with it. It's the same thing with teenagehood. You've never been a parent to a teenager before, so there's things that you do that will be
and I like what you just said, because it's true. You've never been where you are before.
You've never been there before.
And there's no rehearsal. Every
you're
day,
learning on the job.
You're learning on the job, and each day counts a lot.
But it's different with the other kids. When the second and the third one, I say the other children have the benefit of, you're a bit more of an experienced parent. So one of the things I truly believe this COVID season has gifted us as parents is to allow our children to be back home, to allow us to be back home, and to be fully immersed in being in each other's hair. I don't want to say in each other's hair, because then it sounds like we're fighting or struggling, but just being in each other's lives and getting to learn each other. Children are learning who their parents are. They're seeing their parents at home. Parents are seeing their children at home and getting to learn who they are. So that's been the gift that I have found as a mother in this season with my teenagers, is that window of opportunity that Carol has mentioned, that I feel like I'm getting a chance to do over the things I didn't do as well when they were younger, maybe because I was too busy with my career, or I was too busy with this, that, and the other. So now my children have been gifted back to me. They are at home, and I'm at home, and I can take advantage of that window of opportunity.
Wow, so well said. And you almost said it, but you didn't, so we can say it. Is there a struggle associated with that re-entry, if I can call it that way, when our kids have been given back to us, we were used to having a teacher, They go to school, have a teacher checks their homework, and then a teacher guides on a school trip. But now, 24/7, as it were, you are the one in charge of the children. What kind of struggle, how could that really adjustment struggle look like?
It's very funny you should say that. So the struggle is real. So I remember when, okay, so children are not going to school, we are not going to work, everybody's at home. I remember calling one of my girlfriends who, her kids are also teenagers, around the same age as my second and third born. And she has homeschooled her children all through, like from when they were really little. So I called her up and I said, you know, Mama, I just wanted to say I respect you, the fact that your children can speak good English. I don't know how you did it. It's amazing. I think we have seen it loud and clear. Parents have struggled with having their kids at home the whole time and being able to maintain the academics, because I think we focus too much on academics is the only form of learning that can happen. I think one of the things that has happened in this season is we have seen that our children are not just about academics. There's other forms of teaching opportunities and learning that can happen and should happen in the home front during this season of being at home. So you are very right. We have struggled. I think every parent has struggled with how has this child been learning? How do teachers teach? How do they focus? Yes, the struggle has been very real.
Yeah, Carol.
I'm really enjoying what you're saying in terms of you're looking back and seeing what are some of the things I missed out? Maybe I could have been too busy and I didn't teach them. I'm seeing this as an opportunity to teach my children. What I'm hearing is a release. Like, there's a way you can look at it by saying, what is wrong with me? Look, this child does not even know how to do 1, 2, 3, 4. But how you're approaching it is with absolutely no guilt. Oh, this is an opportunity I have to teach them something that they didn't know. And I think one of the struggles that can be in this space, Reverend Maggie, when you're asking about struggle, is parents getting into this space and then they begin to notice things that their children are not able to do, and you get into a place of anxiety, a place of guilt, a place of, I need to fix this. I need to fix this before COVID is over, so that now, when COVID is over, now I have a better child. But approaching it with a lot of compassion for yourself, with a lot of, okay, this guy actually doesn't know how to make his bed. Interesting. Let us train, okay? So you go and you start. At whatever age, they could be 15 and they don't know how to make their bed. That's fine. That is where we are right now. So let us train. Without guilt, with a lot of compassion for myself, let's go in there and let's do step 1, step 2, step 3, and this is how a bed is made. Right. And once that is done, you move on to the next thing and you move on to the next thing. So I think the struggle can be more if we are getting into this space with a lot of beating ourselves up, because whether we like it or not, yes, we are in the same space, but we're also in each other's hairs. Let's just admit, we're in each other's hairs, and the levels of irritability and people getting angry at each other and snapping around, they're happening. We need to acknowledge that. This is all new for us. So even then, now you begin to see also those negative things about your children, and you're like, oh, where have I been? And then you were feeling guilty because you were working. Now you're feeling guilty because you haven't prepared your child enough. And so that whole space is not healthy at all.
And not very comfortable either for
exactly. So I think the struggle would be more if we are not compassionate to ourselves, and if we are not looking at it as a second window of opportunity, where we just think of just one thing that you can teach your child in this season, and just go along with that in a way that goes with your pace, goes with where you are even mentally and emotionally, but at least, nail one thing that you can actually teach them,
and then you can gain some form of success with that one.
Exactly.
And talking of pace, we talked about pace. In an earlier conversation, we had talked about the need to recognize that this is not a one-off. And teenagehood, this is a season of adolescence. It's a season.
Yes.
And that season, it takes time. Talk to us about time. Why is time such an important factor in walking our kids through teenage?
I'll give an example. One of the examples I use when I'm working with parents is just looking at how we parent. You can either parent as a carpenter or parent as a farmer. okay? And a carpenter, has very strict timelines. A real fundi, not the ones that sometimes, go like this. But, the one that, they have a picture of what they want way before they even think about the materials. So they have that whole picture. So everything else they do it while looking at that picture in mind.
This is what I'm coming up with.
This is what I'm coming up with. So if something is going off a little, it's anxious. Hey, I need to
Panel
plane
back.
it. Yes, I need to panel beat it. I need to plane it. This is not the right yellow. So do we have teal and turquoise and all that? No, we need the correct yellow. And so you become so set on the end product that you actually don't enjoy the process. But then when it comes to parenting as a farmer, it's a completely different space. Because in that space, you're asking yourself, what kind of environment do I need to create here? Some of these seeds need to be under the shade. But there are those which actually need to be out there in the sun. Is it time to prune? Pruning is not easy. It's painful. It's ouch. Sometimes it's manure, okay? And manure is messy and is smelly. I don't know where we got that idea that parenting is supposed to be easy. The people who feel that parenting is supposed to be easy want to fix their children and get over the uncomfortable spaces. Now, teenage is one of the most uncomfortable spaces and uncomfortable seasons of parenting because you're dealing with a person who is more grown as opposed to the toddler who would say that noticona or you show them a muiko and they comply. But in this space, you really just have to embrace the characteristics of a farmer. And time is one of the things that a farmer really, there's just a season where you don't see anything. You already put the seed in the ground, you have done your manure and everything, and it's just a season of not seeing anything come out of the ground.
Popping out of the ground.
Yeah.
Right?
So you really need to learn to trust this process of parenting as time, in terms of time, but also just looking at it as a process where you have to continually reflect. Maybe I need to change this here. But ultimately, with the farmer, they don't have complete control of the final product.
What a good thought.
They don't.
Yeah.
There are other forces at work.
Yeah.
And therefore, for me, being even a church-based program, ultimately, this is God who has the results. So it has to be such a walk of faith and hope as you're parenting your child at whatever age, but even more so during teenage season, because there's a lot of, they're just about to get out. You see, like when you think about a bow and an arrow, so our children are really like arrows, and you're the bow, okay? And when it gets really hard, there's an archer, and we all know now who the archer is. The archer is the one who sees where those children need to go.
Wow.
He's the one who sees where the arrow needs to go. When it's just about time to launch that child, that's when the bending happens the most. And that's when that's the teenage period where there's more struggle in that space. When it's happening the most, really it's now time to launch the child. Yeah. But then it has to be at a space where you know that what you are, not just a bow, because if you use the word just, then it minimizes your role. But you are a bow, and you are in the hands of an archer, and this arrow, there's someone who knows where it's going. So how much more allowing this to be a faith walk and allowing time to just work out what this child needs to be, in this season of parenting.
That is so well said. And we are going to take a short break very soon. But before we take that break, let me just welcome a few people who are watching us this afternoon. We have seen Emily Nimo, Roigo is watching. Welcome, Nimo. Jonathan Karanja is watching. Welcome, Jonathan. That's Marion's husband. Charles Nganga is watching. Our very bishop is watching us. Angela Wajiko, you right there. Welcome. Waithera Bundi, you are so welcome. Koi Wagoi, you are all welcome. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, so don't go anywhere, we shall now figure out how to walk through the day patiently in this process of parenting our teenagers. Thank you. thank you so much for staying tuned. And we want to start it up with answering one question that Angela has asked. As a sibling, I have a teenager. How can I walk alongside my teenage sibling?
I think, one, it depends on the level of responsibility that you have been given over your sibling. So if you're supporting them in terms of financially, maybe paying for their fees or living with them, then you're going to take a more of a parental role, because parenting is not necessarily giving birth or adopting, or it's just really a process where are you, what level of responsibility do you have, and are you nurturing them? So I think that one, for me, because I don't have clarity on the specific situation, is to what extent is the responsibility you have over your sibling. But other than that, because we do have, you can still take up the role of a mentor and just still give them direction where they need direction. You may not be able to give consequences because there's already just that sibling rivalry thing that always goes on, especially when when you're closer to age. So for me, I think you still do have a part to play in terms of mentoring, but also the extent into which you go into it depends on what level of responsibility you have over them.
Right. Wow, fantastic. I think we can address that one that way.
Yeah.
But if it's something very specific, Angela can post it on to us and you can answer it, right?
Yes, that would
so
be great.
It gives a little more clarity.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. We want to explore a day at home with our teenagers. This COVID season, more time, a bit of gadgets, a bit of time on the internet, because we are doing school at home. So how has it been for you, Marion? How does it look like to stay at home all day with that teenagers, two of them, and a bigger teenager who is 20, and they need to do their work? Just paint a picture for us.
Okay. So I think from the outset, I think one of the things that distinguish is we are fortunate that the children, our teenagers, at least those who are in high school, have been fortunate to be provided learning, to continue their formal education, the academic part of their learning through online means, and that is not the reality for many Kenyan teenagers.
Correct.
So I want to just set that as one of the things that's just, let me just put that out there, so to speak. And then we have an adult, basically he's above 18, he's 20 years old, so our firstborn, and he's in university, so he has had to continue his learning online. So one of the things that I can put out there is, previously what we have done, in the past we have chosen as a family not to have internet at home, just because of how much it took from us as from family life and from family time. And that's during the school term. So when our kids are in school, we don't pay for internet. Right. So there's no internet at home. It's inconvenienced us too as parents, because when you come home, you can't quite really work from home because there's no internet. So when you get home, you're just at home, with each other. And looking back now, that helped us in many ways, because now we have to have internet so that the kids can be able to continue with their schooling program. So of course, the kids would be like, yay, we get internet now. But we parents now, our safety net has gone. And so we are finding ourselves even now. And to be honest, it's not just children. It's not just the teenagers who struggle with the internet. We too, I mean, now there's internet 24 hours at home. You're probably spending more time on your laptop or on your gadgets as well as a parent, you know. And you don't want that. So one of the things that we quickly, we're in a new space. How then do we adapt to this new environment? We have to have internet. So that's the first thing that I want to say as parents of teenagers. That challenged how we parented our teenagers. Our firstborn son he never had that opportunity of those internet at home during a school term. That never happened for him. But now here we are in this new space. How are we going to parent these children with the internet there? And so one of the things that we have done is we have tried to keep the same schedule. So kids, you go to bed at this time during the regular school term, we're still going to keep that. So you need to be in bed by a certain time, because in as much as you're at home, it may not necessarily be the case that you have more time on your hands. There's more things to be done. There's no help coming to do the dishes or cook or do that. We are all at home, so we all have to pull our weight with the housework. So you go to bed a little earlier. I mean, you go to bed, try and keep regular sleeping patterns. So none of that sleeping at midnight because you are up on the internet happening. So go to bed, wake up in the morning. So the twins, age 15 are the ones, wake up in the morning, have your breakfast, get ready for school, because then they have to be logged into class by a certain time. So you have to make sure your device was charged. There's none of that. Your device, oh, we can't attend class, we ran out of charge. Get your school books,
have to
put
get
them
that
on
in
the
place.
table. We're in a small space, so we all have to be at the table together. Sit down, get ready for school, log into your classes. But now one of the interesting things that's happened is they actually have more to do, because it's your day for school. You have schoolwork, but you also have chores. So everybody has a day when it's your day to keep the house clean. So they're Star Wars fans, so we call it being the Jedi. So everybody has a day when they're the Jedi. You're the one who'll wake up, you have to mop the house, you have to clean the bathroom, you have to make sure the house, dust the surfaces, just do the chores that need to be done. There's dishes, everybody has their schedule of, are you washing breakfast, lunch, or dinner dishes? So you have that on top of your schoolwork, attending your classes and doing in your assignments and handing them in, and also find time to. So one of the things that they have picked up is cycling. They did a lot of cycling when they were little, and so that's one of the things I'm thankful for that they have developed a passion for, is in the afternoon they want to go cycling together as brothers. So they'll go out and ride their bikes and probably try and do something like 30 kilometers or just stuff like that.
Wow.
So how do you make all of that fit into your time? And that's why I was saying the learning that's happening right now is not just about academics.
Yes, there's
Now,
more than that.
There's more than that. They're having to learn how to manage their time. Your assignment is due by 11 p.m. or whatever time it is has been sent. You have to do it, but you also have to do the dishes.
Yes.
Nobody's going to go into that kitchen and do the dishes for you. So you need to figure out when you're going to wash the dishes. You need to figure out when you're going to be the Jedi, when you're going to get your housework done. So it's not necessarily the case that they are have more time on their hands. Now they are being challenged we're all being challenged to manage our time better. So I think that's one of the things that when Carol said about the window of opportunities, looking at these seasons that we are in, even teenage seasons, and then figuring out what's the opportunity for me there as a parent and how do I use it. It's true when you said that someone's 15 years old, they don't know how to make the bed. Okay, am I going to fret about it, or am I going to work? It is what it is.
Right.
Let us roll up our
Live with
shirt
it,
sleeves and
work
this
with
is
it.
how you make a bed.
Yes.
From today on, this is the standard I
Yes.
want to see.
Yeah.
So it's picking up from seeing the opportunity in the moment and working with it. And I must say, I'm so glad you said that, because one of the things that I think we miss out as parents of teenagers, having raised a teenager to adult, to becoming a young adult now and raising other teenagers, is we really miss out on seeing who they are. They are wonderful, but their personalities, their attributes, their talents, their gifts, just who they are as people, because we're so fixated on teenagers are terrible that you actually end up missing out on the potential of who they are becoming. So I'm so glad you brought that out as a parent of a teenager.
Oh, nice. Just before we move on, I wanted to capture, how do you keep the kids focused? Because they have to do their work and finish.
Yeah.
They have gadgets.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they are on some of these platforms like Instagram. They have a friend to say hello to. So how do you make sure they are focused and not distracted? Or how do you keep the distractions away?
Yeah. It's like you have a camera into our lives, Pastor Maggie.
That's the reality.
One of the fearful things, one of the things for me I'm very aware of is I have twins.
Yes.
They're age mates.
Yeah.
They're siblings, they're friends, they're in the same school, same year, they've done everything together. So now they're in class together. So half the time you'll find like, oh, by the way, did you? And I'm like, excuse me, class is going on. You need to be paying attention. So there's a very real need there to keep reminding them, this is still school. It's very easy for them to get distracted, to lose focus, especially when they're with the other siblings in the house. They may not have friends coming over because of the social distancing thing, but you have other siblings in the house, or you have other things. Don't have your phone on the table. When it's time you're logged into class, don't have your phone on the table. There are things you don't have, other books, like the books that they read, that's a novel you're reading. You can't have it there, so focus. One of the things we try and do, at least just to help them focus, is have your books out ready before class begins, So just trying to get them to keep we say in the house, keep the main thing the main thing. So it's time for school, do that. And then in between the breaks, they know allocate time for everything. So there'll be a time for, okay, you to go to your phone and you want to go through your social media. There's a time for, so everything is, so it's not by decree like a hard no, you cannot do social media. Never, ever, don't. It's, okay, this is a part of your life. How then do we manage it? Like I said, we didn't have internet before. Now we have to have it. So now how do we manage this resource that we have? So even the same thing with the phone. Okay, great. You want to do social media? It's there. But this is the time to do it. You can't be on your phone until midnight that you are just chatting people. So when it's bedtime, phones remain in the sitting room. You don't go to bed with any you don't go to bed with gadgets. And it's the time for your gadgets to do that. And then the other thing also is just trying to use our time constructively as a family. So one of the other things that has worked well for us is evenings we have started to read a book of the Bible together. So that helps reduce the time that you can be on a gadget, both for us as parents and for the children, because what we do is everybody has a day. So in the same way you have a day to be the person who cleans the house, you also have a day when you're the one to prepare the study. So for example, we've been reading through the book of Romans. We're reading Romans chapter 5 today. You take the Bible, go and read it, come and ask us questions, come and facilitate that discussion. Yeah, at your level. We'll take it at whatever level you present it to us. But it's been interesting because even in doing that, then the conversations, there's questions that come up. And again, like you said, having kids, teenagers, it's really its own special thing because then you can really have conversations with them when you engage them. Yeah. And I need to say this carefully because I have boys. They're not like the most talkative people in the world. But it's great just to sit there and have a conversation, ask questions, get to hear how they're processing the Bible. Sometimes they'll say something like, I think God was not fair when he did this. And you're like, interesting. Let me hear why you think he was not fair. And just walking through those questions with them, hearing how they're processing things. That's been a blessing, but it's forced us to have to do things together, which is a good thing. So one of the ways to manage social media is accept it. That's a fight. We're not going to fight that, but how are we going to manage it so that then it's beneficial and you still have some level of freedom and learning, help you navigate your newfound freedoms and responsibilities.
That's so amazing that the kids can be involved. And actually, you've done a lot of training. Because you're training them how to develop a study for that they can lead the whole family through, and that captures the whole place of spiritual development. That you're in charge of that, and thanks to COVID, that we have new opportunities to work with our teenagers in a way we didn't do before. Carol, educate us a little bit. If I am not this parent who sees this opportunity, how can I seize it? Because we say it's never too late. Anytime is a good time to start. So for example, I could be this parent who was never that engaged. Now I am frustrated by the fact that I have these kids or with myself and maybe a single mom. How can I navigate that space?
For me, I think self-awareness is very important. Where am I at? I have seen maybe I have not trained the way I was supposed to train. And I said it earlier. Release it. I mean, have compassion for yourself. Okay, let's start. Let's do this. But it's so much about what are you telling yourself. Even as a single mom, what are you telling yourself about your situation? Is there a sense of I'm alone in this? And there's a lot of perception of I'm alone as opposed to, well, this is the situation I'm in. What can I do? Can I bring in, community around me? I stay with my son. We are in a co-parenting space with the father. So we're not parenting him in the same house together. And, he gets turns to go to his dad's and come to my place. But then in this season, I just picked him and we moved to my sister's house where now kids can play together. There's a lot more company. In fact, now when you're talking about training, I find that I'm training him better now because there are more eyes and there's more accountability in the things that he needs to do. And he is accountable to just not me, but the others. So I think that seizing the moment is just really looking at your situation, not necessarily as a negative thing or a limitation, but what it is, what can I do? What can I do in this moment? How can I make the most of it? And I know every situation is different, but I think if we have higher levels of self-awareness, we are aware how am I interpreting my situation? How am I interpreting my child's behavior? Because also even in the space of parenting alone, one of the things that can happen is every behavior you see in the light of it's because there's no father in the space. But that could be the things that I call interpretation. The conversations you have with yourselves about your child's behavior.
Yeah.
What conversations are you having with yourself? Because they will determine how you will feel, and they will determine how you react to the child. So if you're able to step back and separate those two things, in fact, I like to tell parents, ask when you see a child's behavior and you feel a certain way. You know, like where I come from, they say you feel something like, hua, you know. So you ask yourself, why have I felt like that? What in this moment is mine? What in this moment, this anger, is it mine to own, or is it the child? Is it the child who has triggered it, triggered something that's already in me? So what do I need to work on? So part of seizing the moment for me this season is really just to go deep into yourself and have a self-awareness of what are some things that trigger me? What am I worrying about? What are things that I worry about? What can I do about them? There are those things that you have no control over, and so you invite peace, okay? To be able to, the serenity, to be like, okay, this is something I cannot change. But God, give me the wisdom or the courage to change the things that I can.
Yeah.
And so just being able to separate that. And then, of course, the most important is the wisdom to know the difference between what I can change and
What I can't change.
Yes. So for me, seizing the
Wow.
moment is just going back inside of yourself and really beginning to explore that inner space. And
Yeah.
what do I need to work on, and how do I need to
I
change?
think that's very empowering to parents to listen to that and hear that I can do a self-audit and I can see where I need to pay attention to so that I can be a better parent in this season.
Yeah, so I can provide the right environment, because children soak in what we pour out.
Right.
And what we pour out really comes from here.
From
So
right
it doesn't
inside.
matter how many tips and tools you gather out there. What really matters is the environment in which you are implementing those tools. And that environment is really what's inside. So if you don't work on what is inside, which is a process, then what the child gets is just, well, mom was really, really angry. Me, all I saw was the anger. I didn't see, there was no lesson there,
Wow,
you know?
it's just the
So they
anger.
just focus on, they focus on your emotion as opposed to the lesson that they need to learn.
Good insight.
I just like, that is just gold star right there, what
Yeah.
Carol said, because one of the things I have learned on my journey as a mother to teenagers is how the issue of control, I think, is what stresses us as parents. I think one of the things that happens as a parent of a teenager is you start realizing how little control, you start seeing control basically slipping away
Out of
from
your
you,
fingers,
you know?
yes.
And rightly so, that's the way it should be. This is this person will become an individual and an adult and will need to function in society. Over and above that, this is a person who is created in God's image and whom God created for his own glory. Not for me, my glory as a parent. I think many times that's where we get it wrong as parents.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
just, I mean, personally, self-assessment. You said we need to self-audit as parents. I think one of the things for me that was an aha moment is this. I'll be judged on how as a parent by the outcome of my children. So these children are a mini extension of my glory. And that's not who God created them to be. He created them for his glory. And once you start realizing God has a purpose for this person, I am a steward. My responsibility is to raise them to the place where they can fully function to bring glory to God. Raise them to bring glory, to glorify God.
Right.
Then the issue of control starts. You start getting a bit comfortable with losing control because ultimately, Father God, they belong to you. I am a steward. And God begins, and praying for your children is also very powerful because, not because it changes them. Many times we come at prayers like, Lord, change that child.
Yeah.
It changes your perception of how you see your children.
Yeah.
And then you're able to know what are the things that really matter for this teenager. One of the things that I have become aware of as a mother is I need to parent this child for values. I need to help this child understand, this teenager understand who they are, because God has gifted them with talents, abilities, attributes, competencies that are unique to them that they will need to use that they will fully live to function in the purpose that God has called them to. For some, There are children who are born, they wake up, they play a violin, and it's amazing for the rest of their life. Their gifts are overt. You
Yes,
see, like, this is a
yes.
talented sportsman or an athlete, or your child is a talented musician or academic, and those are the ones whom the world celebrates. They probably won't struggle as much to find out who they are, their identity. But there are those for whom their gifts are not as overt.
Right.
But they're still gifted in some way. And it's to help them realize, like, if your child was the most compassionate, God has gifted them with an amazing gift of compassion. It may not be something that the world will ever call out, but imagine that is an attribute and a gift that God has deliberately and intentionally placed in this world. It is my duty as a parent to help my child see the benefit and the blessing of being compassionate.
Right.
And to parent that in them, even as a teenager. Your teenager could probably be very compassionate, but you're so fearful that you're losing control, that you're missing out in all the wonderful aspects of this compassionate teenager
Yeah.
that you have in your house.
Right.
I
So I
tell
think
you.
that's one of the things that for me has been a real paradigm shift in,
Yeah.
in raising teenagers.
Yeah.
Wow.
And-
Our time is so well spent, Carol.
Yes.
So when you share a piece of wisdom with us, also give us like a parting shot and encourage a parent who may be feeling, I actually have learned something and I can seize, that word is good and it's a good word, seize the opportunity and do something and make this time count for me as a parent
Yeah.
of a teenager.
Yes, I mean, I'm really loving the flow of this conversation and your authenticity in just seeing how you realized that there was a space of control and you are using your child as an extension of your ego, and just being able to realize that, what a gift that is. Just being aware, starting to have a sense of awareness, because I like to use this phrase, this sort of quote, when I work with parents, is that unless you are fulfilled, you will use your children to complete you. You will teach them how to live with your fears, how to live with your emptiness, and how to live with your anxieties. But that's just one part one. Part two is all the while unaware that you are doing so. And that's the tragedy, that we are unaware. And so when you come to that space of awareness and you're like, ooh, I'm being a control freak, or I'm feeling anxious and I'm feeling fearful, that is one step. And that's usually like 50% of the journey. Just being aware that, oh, this is what I'm doing. Then the second one is, where is it coming from? So just being able to even just sit and like, God, this is how I'm feeling and I do not understand where it's coming from. He is the light. Shine the light in those spaces that I need to work on. So that now once I start working on, then one of the things that I have learned with my son, who is 11 right now, and we're getting into a space of a lot of power struggles. And I'm understanding also that that's the space that he needs to assert himself. Like we were saying earlier, even before the show, that sometimes we forget that preteen is also really, really tough. We always think about adolescent being this thing. But preteen is when now they're really transitioning from this, yes, mommy, all lovey-dovey to, okay, now I have my voice. And do you know one of the things that for me I have learned to do is when I'm having those power struggle moments with my son, I just sit still and breathe and say, God, I need wisdom for this moment.
Wow.
Just drawing wisdom for that moment. And does it always work? Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes it gets explosive, but later I'm like, I prayed. So if I messed it up, it would just give me wisdom to fix it now.
Right.
So it's like continually drawing. I think the parting shot for me here is that it is possible to continually draw from God and looking at that from the archer and the bow perspective,
like
because he's the one who sees. He's the one who created these children. He actually created the purpose first, and then he created our children for that purpose. Who am I to start being a control freak here, using my own insecurities to complete my child?
Wow.
How much more easier can I just sit and breathe in and out and draw from God? I'm like, this one is your child, and there's a direction he's going, and now me in this moment, give me wisdom. Give me wisdom.
Nice.
If I need to walk away from this push and pull, it's okay, because that's another thing we want to assert our authority. I am the parent in this house. Sometimes you just walk away from it so that you can go and really just have that time to draw wisdom.
Right.
So I think there's a place where we need to realize that we don't have to fix everything as it happens in the moment, but we can continually draw wisdom in the moment to be able to handle those very explosive moments that
Wow,
happen.
so well said. Thank you so much, Kara. I appreciate that. Marion, give us a parting shot. Encourage a parent who hasn't figured out how to get the kids away from their distractions, and how to work out a schedule that fits teenagers, remembering that now they have grown, they're no longer kids. Now they are maturing, and like we said a little earlier, they are moving towards autonomy. And you want to walk them through that journey of autonomy so they can become adults. So give us a parting shot.
Okay. I think my experience in motherhood, and again, I am a mother of boys, young men, is one of the things that I have drawn strength from is that I try and model my parenting from the ultimate parent. So looking not just to how did our parents raise us or how does the world say we should raise children, but Lord, how have you parented me as my parent, as the ultimate father? And trying to just replicate that model even for my children. I have found that to be beneficial because some of the things like, for instance, our society trends to focus on academics for children. So even when we talk about education, when will our children open school so that they go back to education?
Because they are falling behind.
Because they are falling behind and they won't be able to sit their national exams. Yes, that is a very valid conversation. But also, as a parent, my worldview should be much bigger. It's not just about opening school so that my children go back and sit an exam and continue on with life. I think there is a place for me to look at education more broadly in terms of what does this child need to learn? What would the Lord have me as the parent of this child teach this child and guide this child? And I think that would fix some of the issues we have in society if we focused more on teaching our children values. In the same way we place emphasis on academics, which is also equally important. That is not to minimize the place of academics, but it is also to say we need to just up the ante a bit more and focus on values, raising our children for values. And that's some of the things that we can do in this season, and we can use our time more meaningfully. So it's a gift to have your children at home right now, undistracted by schooling, waking up to catch the school bus at 4 a.m. or fighting traffic to get home to your children. We are all at home, so to speak, in this moment. Maybe this is a place to redeem the season and teach values to our children, teach them compassion, kindness, teach them how to be brothers and sisters to each other, teach them how to care for each other as siblings, teach them how it is to live in a family, whatever your construct of a family is. How do we have dignity for each other? How do we show dignity for human beings? Because some of these things, the issues we see in society, it's more as a function of the socialization that happened in the home. And we have a unique opportunity as parents to begin to do that one thing. I like how Carol said, just one thing. It's like we don't have to fix the whole world in one go. But what's one thing I can do with my teenager right now to teach them? What's the one value that I want them to come away with from? And you'd be amazed how God takes that faithful effort and multiplies it into something great in the life of your teenager.
Thank you so much. Amazing. Let's anchor this in scripture. This is an old traditional favorite psalm that we all like. And Carol alluded to it, that we need to draw from God daily. And the Bible reminds us in Psalms 127 that unless the Lord builds a house, unless the Lord helps us bring up these children, the archer, like you called him, he is at the back of our minds. We know we are not the ones in control. We cede control to this God who builds the house for us. The builders will labor in vain. As a parent, you don't want to labor in vain. We want to invite God so that our labors are not, they won't amount to naught. Unless the Lord watches over the city, unless the Lord watches over our children, you start God in vain. And in vain we will fret, we will rise up early, we will sleep late. We will stay there trying to seed, to seize instead of ceding control so that our kids can grow. And the Lord is inviting us, actually, even right now, as parents, to remember that He's there for us. He is our constant. We can go back to Him, and He can help us regain that space of control of ourselves so we can raise this generation in godly ways. So thank you so much, ladies. I cannot thank you enough for your time and your invaluable insights. We keep learning and we keep feeling very, very blessed. Thank you so much. Before we close this session, I want to say a huge thank you to the guys who have kept watching. We have our own lovely Julie, Reverend Julie. She's tuned in and she's appreciating that the way we are handling real life issues. That's a good one. Our Bishop Charles Way in Tigoni, he's saying, great tips, Marion. That's a good one. On reducing gadget time and increasing quality family time at home. Angela, our top fan, is back, saying involving our kids in Bible study time. That's really good. And this attests to this. This is a test. That, well, I can't get the grammar there, but this is amazing. That's what she says, and yeah, they have a very interesting views on the Word of God. Those are our kids. Lea Wagari, you are watching. Keep watching. Waboi Maura, also allowing them to lead the Bible study sessions at their level. That's a cool thing, Marion. Thanks for sharing that insight for us. Seizing the moment, that was captured very well. Being self-aware that you can provide the right environment to raise your teens. Change really begins with me. That has been captured very well. We have Martin Kimani. Wow. This says, wow. MZ, I'm encouraged. So guys, thank you so much for keeping tuned. Thanks for sharing this 1 hour or so with us, and we look back to next week on this same program. We shall be back, and next week we shall be looking at a very interesting program. We on Wednesday next week, same time at 2 p.m. we shall be looking at depression among kids and teenagers. Don't miss that one. Plan to be there. We shall be there on time. Thank you. God bless you. Bye.
Standing here only because you made a way. And we're standing here only because you made a way. And we're standing here only because you made. You move mountains.
You cause walls to fall with your power. Perform miracles. There is